Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News, a recap of major stories within the week. I am Francis Edate, coming to you live from Rio, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari says 9th National Assembly, one of the most productive. Children called on government, parents, and institutions to provide needed environment for their development as 2023 Children's Day request. Plus, Wagner Group begins transferring Bakhmut positions to Russian army. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Many thanks for joining us. We begin our weekend recap news with number one citizen, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, who has described the 9th National Assembly led by Senate President Ahmed Lawan and House of Representatives Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila as one of the most productive in terms of output and outcome. He stated these at the inauguration of the permanent site of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILDS, in Abuja. Buhari thanked the leadership of the National Assembly for their support, emphasizing the importance of the legislature in a democracy. Buhari stated that they refrained from meddling in the affairs of the legislature to encourage an independent National Assembly. The president pointed out that the country's teeming youth population remains one of its greatest assets. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has handed the transition documents to the President-elect Bola Tinubu in Abuja. The President also handed the baton of service, which is in line with Executive Order No. 14, which mandates that the Transition Council issues handover notes containing, amongst other things, proposed policy direction for the incoming administration. Meanwhile, the President-elect Bola Tinubu and his vice, Kashim Shettima, have been honored with the Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic and Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger, respectively. Reports say the investiture is part of the activities lined up for the May 29th inauguration ceremony.
This is all going to be done there.
Oh, everything together. Oh, okay. So the next thing we are doing is to invite the president.
In the meantime, President Buhari has tasked all ministers in his cabinet to continue until May 29th, when President-elect Bola Tinubu will be inaugurated as his successor. This is confirmed by the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, who also noted that the Federal Executive Council (FEC) has not been dissolved. And while the presidency explained that President Buhari had approved last-minute funds few days to his transfer of power to the administration of Bola Tinubu, as he said, the government needs funds to clear debts. A special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, stated this during a televised interview while assessing the performance of Buhari's 8-year tenure in office. Meanwhile, President Buhari on Friday lauded the contribution and operational support of the Nigerian Navy to end internal security challenges in the country. Buhari made the commendation virtually while supervising the commissioning of Nigerian Navy Logistics College, Dawakin Tofa, Kano State. He noted that the effective conduct of the Nigerian Navy, along with other security agencies in the management of internal security, has earned significantly improved security in the country. The President commended the Chief of Naval Staff and his team with a level of infrastructural development and partnership with other institutions, adding that the college will no doubt enhance intelligence opportunity in the management of logistics operation, adding that the 4 projects commissioned remain critical to the economic prosperity of the nation, expressed confidence that the incoming government, which is also a progressive administration, will sustain the tempo of its improvement. Reports say the President also used the occasion to inaugurate other projects, including the 3,000-capacity ultra-modern correctional center, new international terminal buildings of Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, as well as the procurement of aircraft, equipment and buildings at the College of Aviation Technology, Zaria, Kaduna State.
At this rate, I have no doubt that our Navy will soon commence construction of larger ships for itself and other navies in the region and beyond. This achievement is a great pride to Nigeria and an impressive contribution to national development. This is why the theme of this 2023 Fleet Review, Fleet Readiness for National Prosperity, was carefully chosen to underscore responsibility of the Navy to infringements in our maritime spaces and in the Gulf of Guinea towards attainment of national prosperity. I must say that the Navy has put these vessels into effective use, as evident in successes recorded in the fight against resource theft, counter-drug operations, and piracy. As you are aware, piracy reduced significantly over the past 7 years, which culminated in delisting Nigeria from the list of piracy-prone countries by the International Maritime Bureau in March 2022. Furthermore,
in another development, the federal government has committed to providing at least 50% of the seed capital for the establishment of the Nigerian Wholesale Impact Investment Fund, WIIF. The Minister for State, Finance and Budget Planning, Clem Agba, disclosed this at a high-level roundtable meeting on the establishment of the WIIF in Abuja within the week. According to Agba, the government is committed to promoting public-private partnerships aimed at fueling a just and equitable society. He also revealed that the present government has committed over 1.5 trillion naira to various social investment schemes over the past few years. Meanwhile, the federal government has unveiled a web portal to engage older citizens across the country. The Director General, National Senior Citizen Center, NSCC, Omokaro, who met this noon in Abuja, said the portal is known as the Continuing Engagement Bureau, CEB. Omokaro noted that the platform was created to collect data on retired civil servants and professionals to link them with agencies of government or organizations that may need their wealth of experience. She added that the program would not only strengthen senior citizens' access to the labor market, but would also provide a platform for interactions and lifelong learning opportunities, especially in ICT, while supplementing income and reducing poverty, redundancy, and loneliness. In the meantime, the Federal Executive Council, FEC, has approved contracts worth 226 billion naira and $592 million to increase power supply across the country. Briefing newsmen after the week's valedictory FEC meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House, Abuja, the Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, said that the power contracts were spread among communities across the country, including Potiskum in Yobe State, Daura in Katsina State, Sapede in Ogun State, and Benin in Edo State, among others. According to him, the council contracts for the engineering, procurement, construction, and financing of the implementation of the 330 kilovolt and 132 kilovolt transmission lines and 33 kilovolt, 11 kilovolt and 400 PE distribution line project under Phase 1 of the Presidential Power Initiative in favor of two contractors in the sum total of over $581 billion, inclusive of 7.5% at the prevailing exchange rate, with period of completion set at 36 months as indicated. Elsewhere, the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation and Chartered Institute of Forensics and Certified Fraud Investigators of Nigeria, CIF-CFIN, have signed an agreement to reduce corrupt practices, fraud, and financial malfeasance in the public sector. During the signing ceremony, which took place at Audit House, Abuja, the Acting Auditor General for the Federation, Andrew Owodili, said that the partnership is a great opportunity to further define new frontiers of what the two institutions hold dear and will be beneficial to the citizens of the country. Owodili noted that his office, in partnership with CIF-CFIN, would be better equipped to fight corruption in ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, as both are bringing different skill sets to the table on ways and means of tackling the menace. Meanwhile, the CIF-CFIN president, Iliasu Gashimbaki, said the partnership is to build capacity in the area of forensics and fraud investigation, particularly for the directorate cadre across the office of government. In a separate development, the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing says 221 billion naira has been disbursed to contractors as costs for the construction of 71 road projects completed in various parts of the country under the 2021 Sukuk Bond funds. The rebuttal was issued on a statement over non-payment of approved funds allocated to contractors by Ministry of Works staff and signed by the Director overseeing the Office of Permanent Secretary, Falarung Shaw Esang. The ministry insisted that it completed the disbursement for the payment of executed contract in the 2021 Sukuk funding, adding that the payment of a sum total of 221 billion naira ended in April 2022. To the Green Chambers now, where the House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating the alleged illegal export of 48 million barrels of crude oil to foreign destinations has reinvited the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, as well as the Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed, to appear before it. The members who appeared on the 25th of May before the chambers, alongside the chairman of the House Ad Hoc Committee, Mark Mbiliha, reissued the summons during the ongoing 3-day investigative hearing on the $2.4 billion alleged to have been siphoned by oil companies and some government agencies on the deal. At the resumed hearing, the committee said within the week that two ministers are to shed light on the whistleblower policy of the federal government and provide the committee with all requested documents on the issue on the probe by the House. To the judiciary now, where the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, within the week sworn in 39 additional judges to man the election petition tribunals currently sitting across the Federation. The CJN, during the ceremony which took place at the Supreme Court, said the judges were found worthy to be appointed as additional members of tribunals that have been saddled with the responsibility of sitting in on the petitions trailing the 2023 general elections. A minister appointed election petition tribunal judges, the CJN instructed them to leave both board and to submit to the sanctity of the rule of law in the discharge of their judicial functions, stressing that the country needs peace. He admonished them not to allow sentiments and public opinion to betray their sense of judgment.
The onus is on you to keep aloft the banner of honesty and integrity that the judiciary has painstakingly hosted over the years. Your appointment to serve in these tribunals is well conceived. Thus, you should do everything within your ability to justify this confidence. There is no doubt that you will be exposed to different forms of temptations and even blackmails. But you should know that all are aimed at testing your strength of character, honesty, and integrity. My candid advice is that in whatever circumstance, you should always be mindful of this oath you have just taken, because it now stands as an uncompromising witness between you and your Creator. It behoves you to willingly submit yourself to the sanctity of the rule of law and supremacy of the Constitution in the discharge of your judicial functions. It is the general belief that elections held when the rule of law is too fragile seldom lead to lasting democratic governance. You are enjoined to always strike a balance between justice and rule of law as you embark on this critical national assignment.
Still from the judiciary, the Court of Appeal in Abuja within the week slammed a fine of 40 million naira and the former presidential candidate Ambrose Albert Owuru for filing a frivolous suit to stop the inauguration of the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu on May 29. The appellate court ordered the politician to pay the fine of 10 million naira each to President Muhammadu Buhari, the Attorney General of the Federation (AGF), Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), and Tinubu, whom he made first to vote defendant in the issue. Justice Jamil Tuko, who read the lead judgment of the three-man panel of the court, held that Owuru embarked on gross abuse of court process by filing a frivolous, vexatious, and irritating suit to provoke the respondents. The Court of Appeal held that the grievances of Owuru against the 2019 presidential election was not only strange but uncalled for, because the grievances had been pursued up to the Supreme Court and was dismissed for want of merit. Justice Tuko said that the action of Owuru to resuscitate the case that died since 2019 at the Supreme Court was aimed at making the lower courts to go on a collision course with the supremacy of the apex court. In a separate development, the Department of State Services (DSS) has warned citizens and all individuals against unruly behaviors and non-adherence to protocols during inauguration activities to usher in the new administration. In a statement by spokesman Peter Funaya, the DSS said it is aware of plans by subversive elements to disrupt the programs in parts of the country. According to the service, the aim is to undermine security agencies' efforts at ensuring peaceful ceremonies, as well as creating panic and fear among members of the public. The service reiterated its earlier call for the populace to remain calm and law-abiding, adding that it will continue to sustain collaboration with sister agencies to ensure successful inaugurations. Recall that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the Presidential Transition Council (PTC) on 18 May 2023 held a World Press Conference during which he announced activities for the presidential inauguration. The major highlights of the activities is the swearing in of the President on 29 May 2023 in Abuja. On the same date, new governors will also be inaugurated in most of the states. And back here, as the May 29 handover date draws closer, the Akwa Ibom State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Iyo has commenced the pre-hearing of petitions challenging the declaration of the People's Democratic Party's candidate Pastor Umoina as the winner of the March 18, 2023 governorship poll held in the state. On Friday, May 26, 2023, a three-member panel headed by Honorable Justice Adekunle Adeleye attended to the joint petitions of the All Progressives Congress (APC) and its candidate Obama Kanudofia, and the Young People's Party (YPP) and its candidate Senator Bassi Apan during the pre-hearing session. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission and first respondent has Ofiong Senior Advocate of Nigeria as its lead counsel, while Paul Usara is leading the legal team of the second respondent and Governor-elect Pastor Omoina. Namso Ikanem is lead counsel for the third respondent, the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Reports say all the lead counsel for both the petitioners and the respondents were in attendance at the tribunal. For the APC and Akanu Dofia, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Dr. Hassan Liman, led the council, while Tunde Falala led the YPP and Senator Basi Albert's legal team. And while it's Children's Day is celebrated today, some children in New York, Kwabam State have called on the governments, parents and institutions, as well as good-hearted people, to prioritize investing in the children by providing the enabling environment for them to fully develop. The children who spoke on Spectrum TV breakfast show Rise and Shine Saturday noted that children are the future, and as such, all children, both those with and those without parents, street children, must be celebrated to make them know they are important and useful to themselves and society. The children also spoke on the kind of parent-children relationship they enjoyed and appealed to parents to always listen to their children, as they have the right to air their opinions and be listened to.
Freedom of speech possible for all children. Well, the government should be working on a way, or at least should be able to by now provide a way to make freedom of speech possible for all children, because that's one of our rights as a child and as an individual. So the government should be able to create a way to make us able to express our thoughts, opinions and feelings on the air, for people to know about what we are thinking and what's going on.
I say that as Brian said, that the government should help these children, and those in the orphanage, there are people to bring things to them. Because after going from there, I was planning to actually go to the orphanage, visit the orphanage, to give gifts to them and help them a lot. So government should take care of these children, provide shelter, food and clothing for them, and people should show them, yes, they are the future and they are useful. They are very useful in the society.
Still to come in the news. Federal government approved NIN debit card merger. To stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on Channel 421 on StarTimes to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
One truth not often told: is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Many thanks for staying with us. We'll move on to the rest of the news stories. We start from Africa, where the African continent within the week celebrated the 60th anniversary of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, and its successor, the African Union, in commemoration of Africa Day 2023. Recall that it was on this date in 1963 that 32 heads of independent African states met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, along with leaders from African Liberation Movement to craft a way forward for Africa's complete independence from imperialism, colonialism, and apartheid. Reports say the outcome of the meeting was the creation of Africa's first post-independence continental institution, the Organization of African Unity, OAU. Meanwhile, all AU member states as well as the African presidents have joined the celebration to celebrate the milestones achieved as well as showcase major challenges and way forward on their Agenda 2063. Still in Africa, the warring sides in Sudan have accused each other of being behind breaches of the latest ceasefire. The one-week truce was violated minutes after it came into effect on Monday night, with residents of the capital, Khartoum, witnessing airstrikes and artillery fire. Irregular clashes between the army and the paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces (RSF), has spilled over into days. Reports say the current ceasefire has allowed some residents to venture out of their homes for food, water, and medical care. Meanwhile, the conflict has exacerbated an existing humanitarian crisis, forced more than 1.3 million people to flee, and threatened to destabilize the region. In a related development, the UN peacekeeping mission in South Sudan, UNMISS, has warned that the situation in the country could unravel if the war in neighboring Sudan continues. The head of UNMISS, Nicholas Haysom, told reporters in the capital, Juba, that South Sudan will unravel as a result of what is happening in Sudan, noting that the war's negative effect will be felt beyond the country. He said the disruption of South Sudan's oil pipeline to Sudan, through which the landlocked country exports all its crude oil, would have an immediate impact. He added that South Sudan and its citizens' capacity to simply get by would be affected because 90% of the services and salaries all come from the oil money. Elsewhere, Fulgan Kishima, one of the most wanted suspects accused of involvement in the 1994 Rwandan genocide, has been arrested in the South African town of Paarl after more than 20 years on the run. He was detained on Wednesday afternoon in a joint operation between South African authorities and a UN team which tracked down the remaining fugitives. According to an AU body that handles outstanding war crimes cases for Rwanda and Yugoslavia, known as the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, IRMCT, Kiyeshima was one of the world's most wanted genocide fugitives. To Kenya now, where China's embassy has denied news report that Chinese hackers attacked key state agencies in the capital Nairobi, including the presidency. This was reportedly done to assess whether the East African nation would service billions of dollars owed to Beijing. According to reports, the years-long cyber attack started in 2019 when the Chinese started closing credit taps to Kenya as debt strains started showing. But the Chinese embassy said the report was far-fetched and sheer nonsense. Meanwhile, a young Moroccan entrepreneur is hoping to create the first African-designed and engineered electric car. 24-year-old Mohamed Yahya El Bakali, who studied and lives in the UK, has founded the Atlas E-Mobility Group along with his business partner and engineer Hicham Senhaji Hanan. Their company, officially launched within the week, wants to join forces with an established international car manufacturer to produce an electric SUV, but with a traditional and distinctive Moroccan design for the car's interior. Reports say the idea is to construct the vehicles at a factory in Morocco. Meanwhile, the North African country has already transformed itself into a car-making hub for multinationals such as Renault and aims to produce 1 million vehicles a year. In a separate development, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) has approved $3.5 billion loan agreement with Ivory Coast, which it says is designed to tackle financial challenges and assist economic transformation. The IMF said the West African country will receive nearly $500 million immediately, and further funds will be dependent on Ivory Coast making structural changes to its economy. The body noted that the loan will help the country tackle the triple shocks of the COVID-19 pandemic, global monetary tightening, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. On the foreign scene, Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko has said that the relocation of some tactical nuclear weapons from Russia to Belarus had already started. Russia signed a deal with its close ally Belarus earlier in the week about the storage of the warehouse at a special facility that should be finished in just over a month's time. Russia's Wagner Group said it was sending back the bodies of a U.S. citizen killed in fighting in Bakhmut, as well as a Turkish citizen found dead in a blown-up building. In a video, mercenaries from the group were seen kneeling close to two wooden coffins and then dropping a U.S. flag over one coffin and a Turkish one over the other. Meanwhile, Ukraine Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba has urged African countries to end their neutral stance over Russia's invasion as he embarks on a second tour of the continent. Kuleba noted that Ukraine's relations with African countries did not receive proper attention in the country's foreign policy for years, which led to losses. Reports say he held talks with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, former African Union AU Commission Chairman Moussa Faki, and Comoros President Azali Assoumani, who is the current AU chairman. Still on the foreign scene, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has filed papers to launch his 2024 presidential campaign, teeing up 18 months of acrimony as he and Donald Trump lock horns in what is expected to be an attritional contest for the Republican nomination. Reports said DeSantis was considered a rising Republican star, but has seen his prospects dented by months of relentless attacks from the former president, who has surged into recommending lead dispute being engulfed in criminal investigations. The 44-year-old right-winger filed his documentation with the Federal Election Commission ahead of a live-streamed Twitter chat with Elon Musk, where he is expected to make his formal announcement. In the meantime, net migration in the UK has hit a record of 606,000, keeping pressure on the government, which has pledged to cut dependency on foreign labor. Responding to the figures, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak described legal immigration level as too high and said he will bring them down. He added that measures announced earlier this week to tighten the number of international students allowed to bring their families with them would have a significant impact in the country. In a related development, a member of the United Kingdom Parliament, Carol Monaghan, has kicked against the United Kingdom's new visa policy preventing Nigerian students and others studying in the UK from bringing family as dependents except under specific circumstances. While speaking at a Parliament, Monaghan stated that students made valuable contributions to the UK's economy. According to her, international students enrich the UK's society in all sectors, including healthcare, adding that many students who come into the UK look behind their studies and want their families to be part of their experience. On a business news, the federal government has said Nigerians can now request debit card issuance that doubles as their national identity card from their commercial banks. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Sir Pantami, disclosed these in Abuja. He noted that the approval followed a memorandum from the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, and that issuance comes at no cost. According to Pantami, demands for cards have swelled, though the NIMC Act 2007 only mandates Nigerians to have a national identity number and not necessarily a printout card. The minister added that the NIMC had partnered with the Central Bank of Nigeria on the project in order to ease up the difficult situation on Nigerians. Meanwhile, World Bank says the cash scarcity caused by the Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has pushed Nigeria's gross domestic product (GDP) below the International Monetary Fund and African Development Bank global projections. According to its World Economic Outlook for April 2023, the International Monetary Fund retained its growth forecast of 3.2% for Nigeria's economy in 2023. The Financial Bank noted that the African Development Bank in January projected that Nigeria's GDP, which indicates the economic growth rate, would inch up to 3.1% in 2023, adding that uncertainty about policy continuity after the election and rising insecurity will weaken the nation's growth prospect during the year. Still to come in the news, Novak Djokovic in same half as Carlos Alcaraz. To stay with us.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian. From issues on politics,
Hello, Nigeria. I remain committed.
security, education, health, lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyeken every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court, my lord.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if you and so much more. Advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Welcome back. We continue with health, where the health sector unions and the Assembly of Healthcare Professionals Association, JHESU, has directed their members to embark on an indefinite strike. The National Vice President of JHESU, Dr. Obinna Bona, said this at a press briefing held in Abuja within the course of the week. Recall that the leadership of JHESU had, in a letter dated May 9, 2023, issued a 15-day ultimatum to the federal government over alleged inconsistencies of the government in the ongoing negotiations to adjust the consolidated health salary structure for health workers on their platforms. The 15-day ultimatum, which commenced on May 10, 2023, expired at midnight on May 24, 2023. Speaking with newsmen, the National Vice President of JHESU, Dr. Obinna, said the federal government is yet to meet the demands of members, hence the indefinite strike action commenced.
It becomes imperative to inform you that since the federal government is yet to meet these demands, our members have directed by the JHESU National Executive Council that we should proceed on an indefinite strike action upon the expiration of the ultimatum by midnight of 25th May 2023. And therefore, because we are under obligation to obey the resolutions that the National Executive Council of JHESU have given, I therefore declare the indefinite strike action, and it commences today. Thank you.
Still in health, the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, has vowed to seal any health facility found providing substandard services to patients. A Director of Medical and Diagnostics Health and Human Services Secretariat, FCTA, Abubakar Ahmadu, issued the warning while addressing newsmen after an inspection of health facilities in Abuja. He noted that the essence of the exercise was to have an intensive inspection of the private health facilities in the FCT to ensure that they were registered with Private Health Establishment Registration and Monitoring Committee, PHE-RMC. Meanwhile, global health leaders and advocates have raised awareness on the prevention and treatment of cervical cancer, noting that no woman should lose her life when the disease can be prevented. The call followed the creation of the Global Declaration to eliminate cervical cancer by 12 leading public health experts and researchers. According to reports, 1,200 global health leaders and advocates representing over 100 countries, including former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, and Chief Executive Officer of Amref Health Africa, Gitunji Gitahi, signatured the Global Declaration. The declaration was led by scientists, healthcare providers, and advocates for immunization, cancer eradication, and women's health around the world. They called for action from country leaders, private sectors, vaccine manufacturers, community leaders, and others to make cervical cancer elimination a global priority. We move to the exciting world of sports, where Novak Djokovic was within the week drawn in the same half of the French Open main singles draw as Carlos Alcaraz, meaning the pair could meet in the semi-finals. World number one Alcaraz, playing his first major as a Grand Slam champion, starts against a qualifier. Djokovic is seeded third as he goes for a record 23rd men's major title and plays American Alexander Kovacevic. Meanwhile, Cameron Norrie, one of only 3 British players in the singles, starts against France's Benoit Paire. Still in sports, Lewis Hamilton says he has not been in talks with Ferrari, and he and Mercedes are close to agreeing a new contract to keep him at the team beyond this season. Reports say Hamilton's deal with the Silver Arrows runs out at the end of the season. He said he and a team working with Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff on the new contract. Meanwhile, this week, there have been reports that Ferrari had contacted Hamilton about him switching to the Italian team. Meanwhile, Arne Slot says he wants to stay as Feyenoord's manager, ruling himself out of contention for the Tottenham job. The 44-year-old Dutchman had been heavily linked with a move to Spurs after Antonio Conte's sacking in March. Recall that after Conte's sacking, Christian Stellini was appointed Spurs interim manager, but was dismissed after 4 games. Ryan Mason took over as interim boss for a second spell, having previously held the role briefly at the end of the 2020-2021 season. Meanwhile, 8th place Spurs have since taken just 4 points from 6 matches and play relegation-threatened Leeds in their final game of the campaign on Sunday. On our entertainment news, 9 years after their last album together, the Nigerian musical duo Peter and Paul Okoye, known as P-Square, are working on a new album. The identical twins met this known to newsmen recently, where they also hinted at releasing the album within the year. Since reuniting in 2022, the duo released 2 singles, Jaye and Find Somebody, ahead of their 100 Cities World Tour, which kicked off with North America through Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa last year. Speaking with newsmen about the rift that kept the twins apart, Paul said anything one sees that happens to a music group was the same thing that happened to them. Still on entertainment, celebrities and fans have paid tribute to the 83-year-old soul star Tina Turner. Reports say Beyoncé, Mick Jagger, Mariah Carey, and Oprah Winfrey and other stars joined in saluting Turner's musical legacy, while former U.S. President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle praised her for singing her truth through joy and pain. They were joined by the current U.S. President Joe Biden, who noted that Turner had started life as a farmer's daughter and hailed her once-in-a-generation talent. Meanwhile, Grammy-nominated Afrobeat musician Seun Kuti is jetted out of the country barely 48 hours after his release from prison. Reports say the singer, who was being remanded at the State Criminal Investigations and Intelligence Department (SCIID), Panti, Yaba, Lagos State, on the orders of Yaba Chief Magistrate Court for assaulting a police officer in a viral video, was granted bail on Tuesday after spending 8 days in detention. Kuti was in court on Wednesday for his trial at the Chief Magistrate Court Yaba in Lagos, but the proceedings were adjourned to July 3, 2023 due to the magistrate's absence. Meanwhile, the singer announced via his Instagram story that he was on his way to Switzerland for the commencement of his Europe tour. And finally, on our weekend recap news, dancehall maestro, also known as Timaya, has released a new single, My Motto. My Motto, Timaya's first single of 2023, is an Afro-Caribbean track with a catchy video shot by Jed Ajala and fittingly set in the desert plains of California, where Timaya visually dramatizes how he assertively and melodiously convinces a beautiful woman to get in and accompany him on an ecstatic ride. In its ritzy motto, with the possibility of being rewarded with just about anything she dreams of. The song is a follow-up to Timaya's 2022 hit record, Sweetest, which is still a viral rave, both on and offline. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You've been watching Spectrum Recap News Story, a recap of major stories within the week. I am Francis Edit. Many thanks for being there, and do enjoy the rest of your weekend. And well, we'll be rejoining the presidential inauguration lecture happening live in Abuja.